Okay, the book of courses of the luminaries of the heaven, the relations of each according to their names in places of origin, and according to their month, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all the laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world and until eternity. God's got to set time on time. See, we're in this fish bubble called time. God's outside time. His time is not our time. The Bible even made clear in the Psalms, the day of the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years a day. He's not on our clock. He's in eternity. The closest you can be the closest you can relate to eternity in time is the present. That's why the Bible says today, today, today. Not the past, not the future. Today. That's as close on earth as we get into eternity. But God has a set clock. He's not a throw spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks for his time kind of. He's got a number of years designated for this earth. It's his time clock. When he's going to wind things down. And the devil can't force the issue, which he's tried numerous times. If any destroying of the earth is going to be, it's going to be God the Father. It ain't going to be him. He's got a set time on the earth when he's going to wipe it out. Like I've stated many times, like an artist would take an old picture or maybe a sculptor or potter and destroy what he created and start over. Say, I don't like this project anymore. To destroy it and start over. It's God's right. For all you activists out there for earth conservation. According to the names of places in origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world and into eternity, till the new creation accomplish, which dureth till eternity. That matches up perfectly with Revelations. When John the Revelator said, I saw a new heaven and a new earth coming down from heaven. And the new earth, the old earth, it was abolished, was destroyed. And this new earth is different in shape. It doesn't have a sea. There's no darkness in this new earth. Presence of God. And his sun lights this new earth up. His glory. So things are going to be a lot different. And you're talking pearly gates, streets of gold, and all that for us. The temple and the new temple of Jerusalem that God made. The tree of life is there. You could eat the fruit. God's going to give us all names that we know, and stone he writes it on. It's going to be new. And we'll live forever and ever. Time ceases to be no more. In our heavenly bodies that shines like the sun. Accomplish that which dureth till eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven, and its setting in the western portals of heaven. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars, and those whom they lead, 6 in the east, and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accuracy, corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary, named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. So the sun is full of helium that explodes, random explosion, random burst. Sun gives off a lot of energy. Sun produced in a second for his energy what man can produce on earth all combined within a year, just in a second. Six and east and west. Let me see. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west. And all follow each other in accuracy, corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary. First there goes forth the great luminary, named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating heat and fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate, literal, that portal, and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth, those 6 portals in the east. And in that 4th portal, from that which the sun rises in the first month, are the 12 window openings, which precede a flame when they are open in their seasons. When the sun rises in the heaven, he comes forth through the 4th portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th portal in the west of heaven. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night not only. Talking about, he's naming the solstices. You got the summer solstice, which obviously the sun, daylight lasts longer than in the winter solstice, which is shorter. That's what he's describing with these portals, the solstice of the sun. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 30th morning. On that day, the day is longer than the night by a 9th part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from the 4th portal and sets in the 4th, and returns to the 5th portal on the east 30 mornings, and rises from it and sets in the 5th portal. And when the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and it amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts, and it returns to the east and enters in the 6th portal, and rises and sets in the 6th portal. And 30 mornings on account of its sign. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night. And the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east and enters into the 6th portal, and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes forth from the 6th portal in the west, and goes And the sun goes forth from the 6th portal in the west, and goes to the east, and rises in the 5th portal for 30 mornings, and sets in the west again in the 5th western portal. On that day, the day decreases by 2 parts, and amounts to 10 parts, and the night 8 parts. What he's explaining is just the summer solstice, the spring solstice, the fall solstice, the winter solstice. How the daylight extends gradually as you move closer to the summer and move toward the winter, how it decreases and the nights are long. It's pretty much in layman's terms, as I could make you understand. And the sun goes forward from the 5th portal and sets in the 5th portal of the west. And the sun rises in the 4th portal, and for 130 mornings on account of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day, the day is equalized with the sun and becomes of equal length. And the night amounts to the 9th parts, and the day to the 9th parts. And the sun rises from the portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises 30 mornings in the 3rd portal, and sets in the west. And in that day the night becomes longer than the day, and the night becomes longer than the day shorter till the 30th morning. And the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day 8 parts. It flips. So in the winter times, it's more night than day. Basically what he's saying, which is true. And the sun rises from the 3rd portal and sets in the 3rd portal in the west, and returns to the east. And for the 30 morning rises in the 2nd portal in the east. And in like manner sets in the 2nd portal in the west of heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. And the sun rises on that day from the 2nd portal and sets in the west in the 2nd portal. And returns to the east into the 1st portal for 130 mornings, and sets in the 1st portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night becomes longer and amounts to double of the day. And the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day 6. And the sun has therewith traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit, and enters the portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a 9th part, and the 9th has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. And the sun is returned and entered into the 2nd portal in the east, and returns on those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting 30. And on that day the night decreases in the length, and the night amounts to the 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the 3rd portal for 130 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. And on that day night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, pretty much even. And the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as it is to the days 364. If you have a leap year, 365, but sun goes round and round on this course, like Enoch is describing, from the summer solstice to the winter solstice. And in those solstices, you have balance of so much sunlight and so much night, all the way till a year rolls around and it starts over. And God set this in motion, is what he's saying. This is his order of things. And this hasn't changed. Well, you've had cataclysms, and God intervened here and there, but for the most part, it stayed the same since Adam and Eve. Actually, before Adam and Eve, God created, he said, let there be light. And the day of the night, and of the night and the shortness of day, and of the night arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are made. Literally, let they be separated. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter. And this is as he returns 60 times and arises, the great luminary which is named the sun forever and ever. And that which does arises in the great luminary, and is so according to its appearance, according to the Lord commanded. And he rises and he sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night. And his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. 7 times the sun in his brightness than the moon. Now, you know the moon, of course, if you know a little basic astronomy, is a reflection of the sun light bouncing off the moon. But as in regards to size, they are both equal. That's why the moon can eclipse the sun, because God proportioned it at the proper distance to where it appears to block the sun. Precision. God is a God of precision. And after this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven. You notice how he makes the moon feminine. And her circumference is like the circumference of heaven. And her chariot, in which she rides, is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in definite measure. And her rising and setting changes every month. And her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. And thus she arises, and her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning. And on that day she becomes visible, and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun in the portals where the sun rises. Now the ancients had this technology, understood it. You could see Stonehenge is a reflection of that. They understood sun and moon calendars, the Aztecans, the Mayans, even the ancient Egyptians, Assyrians. All these cultures were very much aware of the heavens and their function. And what Enoch is talking about here, they had this knowledge. But then they became, as Paul said in Romans 2, I believe, started worshiping the creation, the sun and the moon and the stars, rather than the Creator. They created them and set them on their courses, whose name be blessed forevermore. And the one And thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning. And on that day she becomes visible and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun in the portal where the sun rises. And the one half of her goes forth by the seventh part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light. As a part where the light is not reflected on the moon. There's a time. To the 1/7 part of the half thereof, and she sets with the sun. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with him and receives the half of one part of light. You can vaguely see the moon, but you can on clear days you can see the moon in the daylight. At night, in the beginning of her morning, in the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is invisible that night with the 14 parts and half one of them. And she arises on that day with exactly a seventh part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun. In her remaining days she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. And I saw another course, a law for her, and how according to the law she performs her monthly revolution. And all these Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed to me. Their positions. And I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights till 15 days were accomplished. In single seventh part she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in the single seventh parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar course. In 2 months the moon sets with the sun in those 2 middle portals, the 3rd and the 4th. She goes forth for 7 days, and turns about and returns again through the portal, which the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light, and she recedes from the sun. And in 8 days again the 6th portal, from which the sun goes forth. And when the sun goes forth from the 4th portal, she goes forth 7 days, and until she goes forth from the 5th and turns back again in the 7 days unto the 4th portal, and accomplishes all her light, and she enters into the 1st portal in the 8 days. And she returns again in the 7th day into the 4th portal, which the sun goes forth. Thus I saw the positions, how the moon rose and the sun set in those days. And in it 5 years are added together. The sun has overplus of 30 days, and all the days which accrue to it, one of those 5 years, when they are full, amount to 364 days. And the overplus of the sun of the stars amounts to 6 days. In 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. And the moon falls behind the sun and the stars to a number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day into eternity. God balanced this out. This is God's doing. God balanced the days out. It's 364, then you got a leap year where it's 365. But the sun and the moon revolves and goes on and on this orbit. God set all this in motion. This is everything. That's what I say is no accidents in the universe, no such animal. That dog doesn't hunt in the universe. Precision. Everything God done, He's done with precision since the dawn of time. And the overplus of the sun and the stars amount to 6 days. In the 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. And the moon falls behind the sun and the stars to a number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. So they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. In 3 years there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years 1,820 days, so that in the 8 years there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days amount to 3 years to 1,062 days. And in 5 years she falls 50 days behind, to the sum of 1,770 days. There is to be added 1,062 days. And in the 5 years there are 1,770 days. So that for the moon, the days in 8 years amounts to 2,832 days. For in 8 years she falls behind an amount of 80 days. All the days she falls behind in the 8 years are 880. And the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals, through which in the sun rises and sets in 30 days. And the leaders of the heads of thousands, who are placed over the whole creation and over all the stars, have also to do with the 4 intercalary days, being inseparable from their office, according to the reckoning of the year. And these render service on the 4 days, which are not reckoned in the reckoning of the year. And owing to them men go wrong therein, for those luminaries truly render service on the world situations. So he said, during this time period it affects the earth. One of the first portal, one of the third portal of the heaven, one of the fourth portal, and one of the sixth portal. And the exactness of the years accomplished through his separate 364 stations. For the signs and the times and the years and the days, the angel, the Uriel showed to me. Ain't that what God said in Genesis? Matches up perfectly with Genesis. When he created the stars, the moon, the sun, he said there will be signs for seasons, signs for times, God's clock, God's calendar. And those wise men that observe it, like the wise men that knew Christ was being born, was observing the stars. God's astronomy, not astrology, God's astronomy. They knew from the wisdom of those stars when Christ was to be born and where he was to be born. They followed. The star was right over Bethlehem. There's no accidents in God's kingdom. Everything has a purpose. We have a purpose. We're no accidents in this game. For the signs and times and the years and the days the angel Uriel showed to me, whom the Lord of glory has set forever, all set over all the luminaries of heaven, into heaven and in the world, that they should rule on the face of the heaven and be seen on the earth and be leaders for the day and night, the sun, the moon, the stars, all the ministering creatures which make their revolution, and all the chariots of the heaven. In like manner, in like manner, 12 doors Uriel showed me, open in the circumference of the sun's chariot into heaven, through which the rays of the sun break forth, and from them is warmth diffused over the whole earth, when they are opened at their appointed season, and for the winds and the spirit of dew, when they are open, standing open in the windows of heaven. Sun drives the weather. The sun's energy is what gives energy to storms, clouds, all that. It has to do with the sun. From thence, warmth diffused over the earth. And when they are open in their appointed season, for the winds and the spirit of dew, which they are open, stand open in the heavens at the ends. As for the 12 portals of heaven, as the ends of earth, one out of which go forth the sun, moon, and the stars, and the works of heaven in the east and in the west. There are many windows open to the heaven, and right of them, one window at its appointed season produces warmth, corresponding as these do to